The Notcast, life, love and misery and deep shit.
Do you ever wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? Is this it? Maybe you've got the car, career, house, family and friends, everything that should make you happy. But still, there's this tenacious sense of being trapped, stuck, lost, or just a bit bloody empty. Welcome to the Notcast, where two therapist coaches, aka theracoaches, lay bare their psycho-spiritual journey of struggle, strife, and realization in their soul search for the keys to a happier, more fulfilling life.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to episode 11 of the Notcast podcast, Judgment Daze. 5 keys to stop giving a shit what people think and start living your best life. Thanks.
11 episodes, wow.
I know.
Double digits now.
I know. Who'd have thunk it?
Not me.
Or me. Oh.
The Judgment.
Yeah, Judgment. It's an interesting one.
All of our episodes are bloody interesting. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. It was interesting doing the reflection on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you find interesting?
The rabbit hole that kind of came out of the reflecting on judgment. Because I started in one place and then it was just like, oh, this is actually much bigger than that.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I kind of realised that. Oh, for God's sake.
I was going to say, I'm not sure I could say that. I was going to say I'm intrigued about your rabbit hole, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, David has hit his peak.
But do tell me about your rabbit hole.
Seeing as you are so nicely. I'll be happy to share my rabbit hole with you. Okay. Oh, just one of those days. So, when I started looking at it, it was, I kind of started to realise that it has formed, and still is, such a big part of my life in so many different ways. And that judgment, in different ways, is everywhere, all of the time.
Mm.
So, because I started looking at self-judgment and then judgment that I've put on other people and judgments that other people put on me. But then that kind of widened to societal judgments and judgments when people are gossiping and just everyday conversation and what's being modeled to me. And like judgment for me started in the basis of judgment by God.
Mm.
So it really kind of, opened it up because it's all over the place. The media, lots of different avenues of judgment. So that's when I fell down the rabbit hole.
Interesting. Because when I asked myself, like, what does judgment mean to me? Well, the first thing I did was Google, what is judgment? What's the dictionary definition? And the etymology, it came up as to say the law. And then when I Googled law, the etymology on that was something along the lines of something laid down or fixed. And what I kind of took from that is this, it's about splitting for me. Like it's like right and wrong. It's like saying that this is okay, this is not.
Yep.
Right. And it's that dichotomy of splitting things up. And for me, there's like a utility in that. Like it's, if you think about like I suppose a kinder way of using the word, or a less loaded way, is discernment. And I think it's useful to be able to discern things. Like if you're I don't know, if you're manufacturing something, it's like, is this accurate to spec, is this not? Like that's kind of useful. Mm-hmm. And yet I think then it can be used judgmentally when you start saying like, this is right this is wrong. I remember having a conversation with a client not so long ago, and she had a real thing about getting stuff wrong. And I was talking to her about the difference between, well, something can be accurate and inaccurate, but is that the same as it being right and wrong?
Yeah.
And for me, there's this moral element to the right and wrongness, because I know it's kind of in our language, so, well, that's right, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I think we can conflate those things sometimes. We're saying that something is, say, correct or not correct, or like I said, accurate or inaccurate. And we say right and wrong. If we attach morality to it, then it becomes about good and bad, as opposed to just accurate and inaccurate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear that, because a lot of that came up for me. There was a lot of should and shouldn't, have to's, good, bad, right, wrong. And I guess there was the flip side, which is judging whether I'm in a safe situation or not. Like, because I know that there's a side to judgment where it's like I can walk into a room and I'm going to try and judge if I'm okay, if everything's okay, if there's something I need to be aware of. And so it kind of came out on two levels for me. There was an ego-based judgment and more of an intuition-based judgment.
Okay.
And now that I'm in a place where I can see it a little bit more, they feel very, very different. Because I guess the ego-based ones for me are always around fear or some sort of insecurity or some sort of not okayness about myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I got with it when I was kind of looking at it. I guess, is it truth was the thing that came up for me.
Was it truth? Is it truth?
Is it truth? Yeah.
Is what truth?
Judgment. It's just a judgment, right?
I think for me, in that sense, that's where that was the point I was trying to get to, where it's like the function of judgment for me is about splitting, which can be a useful thing, but is it real? I think Alan Watts used this. I think I heard it at Ashanti talking about it, but I think it comes from an Alan Watts recording, or I'm sure it's probably older than that. The Buddha probably said it, but it's like, we look at a tree and we'll say, well, there's the bark and there's the leaves and then there's the grass, but it's like none of it's really separate. It all needs each other. Like, I think about house plants, right? You can take a plant and make a house plant, like by putting it in a pot, but if you don't have the right water and food and sunlight and humidity, it doesn't do so well and tends to die.
Yep.
Because it needs all the, it needs what it has in its natural environment. Whereas trees in their natural environment, assume they aren't fucked with, they do all right.
Mm-hmm.
But then, it goes further than that, because like the sun's included in that as well. It all needs the sun.
Yeah.
And anywhere we're splitting any of that stuff, it's just made up by people. It's like it's in our minds. It's not actually true.
Yeah. And therein lies the fun in this.
It got deep and philosophical all of about 10 minutes in.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the thing, because when you speak to it like that, and then I think about how much I've been impacted by judgment and how deeply painful it has been to have judgments on my beingness more than anything else. And it's like, and then I look at it now and I kind of go, but only you believing it makes it real. And makes it painful.
Except it's not like you believe it. When you believe it, you think it's true. You don't think it's a belief.
Yeah. Well, it was what I believed about myself. So then it was just like somebody just coming along going, oh, here, you know that thing that you see in you? Yes, it's there. I know it's not good. It's, yeah. I guess that's the thing about judgment, right? A tree is a tree until you start going, oh, look how beautiful and tall or ugly and that tree is. It's like a tree is just a tree and a human is just a human until you start attaching, and it looks like this and it should look like this and it should be like this. And I guess that's the thing about judgment.
So I've got this, I have to use it as an example. I've got this I think it's an aloe vera plant. I don't know. I'm not very good with plants, but I've got an aloe vera plant. It just looks like a cactus to me.
Right.
But it's this plant in my front room, and most of it sticks up in the air 'cause it's quite a big one. But it's got this one, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a leaf, an arm, whatever. Anyway,
Front, arm, leaf, whatever.
It's all joined and made up anyway, so whatever. But it hangs down. Okay, so it doesn't stay up with the rest of them. And the way I've positioned the plant is it kind of like it flops like almost out like towards the middle of the room. Now, when I first bought the plant, it had that kind of plastic wrapping to hold it all up straight. So I didn't see that. I was like, oh, that's a beautiful plant. That'll look great in my front room. So I got it. And when I got it home, pulled the wrapping off.
Surprise, surprise!
The arm or whatever you want to call it just flops down. I'm like, okay. And I got it and I'm like, that's not okay. That's wrong. That's annoying. Like, I've got these judgments about it. And I'm like there, like holding it. How can I get it to stay? And it won't. And I'm like, what's the best way to position it? Anyway, I left it, and I realised after a couple of days that I quite like it like that. And I use it when I'm talking to clients. I use that example because that plant's fine being that plant. It doesn't care. It's only when I got it and then put it in that place that I was like, that's not correct. That would be better if it was different. And I know it's true because I can see it in my mind and I can feel it. I can feel my annoyance but I didn't see at the time that was made up. But the plant's just a plant. The plant's just chilling. The plant doesn't care what I think about it.
Yeah, and I guess therein lies the conundrum, right? There I am, just chilling, doing me, and people come along going, "Oh, that's not right. That doesn't look right. That's not good. That's not how it should be. It shouldn't be like that." It's like, okay. But I guess my humanness means that I then try to adjust myself to meet the needs of the other humans, rather than be like the plant and not give a shit. Just do what I'm going to do anyway.
Well, don't you think because for me it's like, yeah, okay, on one side, like the plant's chilling doing its thing, and it's only just our judgment about the plant that creates the problem. It's like, yeah, you should stand up straight or whatever. And it's like, okay, on one side, well, we don't do that with people. If we didn't do that with people, then everyone would be happier. But it's like, if the plant started stealing your car, would you be like, nah, plant's just doing its thing, just chilling? Probably not.
No, probably not.
Well, in that sense, then, is judgment a good thing?
Well, I guess that's the other thing, right, that I speak to, is that intuition basis of knowing that we're safe and knowing that, that's a judgment. And I know for me, I can be quite quick to make that judgment sometimes, only because I know I've been in spaces where I haven't felt safe. And
what judgment?
That this doesn't feel safe, or there's something unsafe in this environment, or I don't feel safe with these people.
I was still thinking about the plant stealing the car. It's like, has the plant stole your car? Or is this something different?
Yeah, maybe the plant stole my car, which would be very strange. But yeah, and I guess that's the thing about what came up for me when I was thinking about this episode. It is a really fine balance and a fine line. Because I guess I've had lots of people tell me when they've sort of put a judgment on me that it's because I'm telling you because it's the right thing. It's the moral thing. It's just like, okay, that must be a really bad person because I'm not doing the right thing. I'm not doing the moral thing. And I guess it goes to another level. It's like, but why do you get to tell me what the moral and right thing is?
Yeah, exactly. It's something I often talk about, like when people say it's bad, it's good. It's like, who says? And I think that's the thing, when in someone's language, and for me, it's not about the words because the words just represent how we're seeing it. But when we talk about something like it's good, it comes across as there's this objective goodness about it, or some objective badness. An example I often use is, if you want to upset someone, or if you want to start a fight, like start talking about good music and bad music, and just see everybody like pitch in. But it's very different. Like if I'm talking about an artist and I said like, yeah, I just don't really like them. Like I don't really find it, just not really good to me. That's very different to being like, that's shit. That's terrible. Because then we end up arguing about the judgment, really.
Yeah. And I've been privy to a lot of arguments about judgment in my time, I can tell you. Because I guess that's the thing. For some people, it is that extreme of, that's just shit. And that's just terrible. But I'm not going to tell you why. I'm just going to tell you it's shit and terrible. And you shouldn't do it. Or you shouldn't like that. Or you shouldn't be like that.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think even if I've got an explanation or a person has an explanation for why, the difference is being able to see, because like come back to the music example, like if I'm saying, or if someone says like, that's shit, what they're not saying at that point is, I don't like this. They're saying what they're hearing is music that is objectively shit. And so if someone disagrees, like, and I think that's where the fight comes, because we end up arguing about the truth of it. And actually there isn't a truth about it. But it's whether you see that. Like if I know, I often say it about like like Muse, for example, the band Muse.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are one of the bands that when I listen to them, I'm like, yeah, I can hear they're really talented, but they just don't light me up. I don't know what it is. When I listen to them, I just don't get that thing that I get with some of my favourite bands. And I've been I've been hearing Muse on and off since they were about 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
Now, on some level, I'm just like, I just don't get it. But there was a time at some point where I used to be, Muse is shit.
I love that. I guess that's the thing, right? It's what people do with a judgment and how people use it that makes it, well, I guess that's the crux of the episode as such. It's about how we are very quick, like you just said, to go, oh no, that shit, you shouldn't do that. We shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't like that. And it's kind of like, but where is that coming from? And why do I have to follow that? And why do you just come and throw that at me? Like I'm just going to go, okay, and just do whatever it is that you now want me to do, because what I'm doing is obviously shit just because you told me that it was shit, and the kind of impact that it has. And I much prefer your way of saying it, which was, that doesn't light me up, because there's an okayness in that to kind of go, it's okay that you like it, you go ahead. But I think there's something quite different when somebody comes along and goes, that's just shit.
Oh, 100%. But for me, the thing is about, it's not the words as such, it's the words are like a representation of the level of seeing and perception. Like there was a time where when I would hear certain bands or music, I would be like, that's shit. Because I genuinely, the way I would hear it would be like, that is shit. Whereas now there probably are still bands at times or some where it just does still sound like shit to me. It's like, it's never true. That is always my opinion. But in that moment, I'll be like, that's fucking awful. But I use Muse as the example because I can hear the talent in what Muse do, but I know it just doesn't light me up. But I've seen other people experience it. I've seen other people how much they love it, and I've even been to gigs where they've been on, and they're like, people are loving it. So I'm seeing like, hang on a minute, there's something here I'm missing. So I know on some level this is about me, so it comes out in my language. I'm not going to say Muse is shit because I know that's not true. But that's what I mean. If someone is saying something, that shit, you shouldn't do that, you should do this, it's because they don't, at that level of their perception, there is an inherent rightness or wrongness about that. They don't see that that's an idea or a rule structure in their mind. It looks like objective truth. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I've been there, so I know what that's like. It's like, no, this is true and this is how it should be. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to say I'm completely immune to it, but I'm not. I'm still a human being.
Yeah. And I think for this episode, that was definitely a thing that came up for me a lot, was, I've judged things and people in life just as much as I've probably been judged. because it's just a thing that was modeled to be from, I think, day dot. And everywhere I looked, because I guess it was in my awareness when I was reflecting on it, everywhere I look, there is judgment happening consistently in some way, shape or form, because it seems like a very human thing to kind of create these judgments. And sometimes I don't even know where it's come from. It's just like, meh. And then it'll be like, well, that's just the way it is.
I think we need it. I think it's a tool, like I was saying before, if we didn't have the ability to judge, we wouldn't be able to discern. It's, why I think we were able to say, those berries are good, those berries are bad. That'll kill you, that won't.
Yeah. So I guess there's the thing around, because I guess there's been spaces, and I know I've done it, like when I first was a therapist, it was like, oh, this is a non-judgmental space. It's like, that's not true, because there can't be a non-judgmental space, because that's not how life works. And so now it kind of has flipped to everybody makes judgments, but it's more about having an awareness of the judgment and trying to understand where it came from.
Yeah.
Rather than just having no judgment. Because that's quite an interesting thing, because there are a lot of spaces I've visited where it's been like, this is a non-judgmental space. And yet I still feel judged. It's like, okay.
This is a non-judgmental space. You're not allowed to judge or you'll be in trouble.
Yes, that. Right.
Hashtag irony.
Yes, exactly. Do not judge people in this space.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite a ride doing the reflection on this, because so much came out of it.
So what was your first tip then?
My first tip was get curious about judgment.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's like, do that experiment. Like, I urge you to go and experiment and really notice how much judgment shows up in life, and how much you judge and how much people around you judge, just to get, rather than doing the whole thing, because I know that I've been like that before, very dismissive and go, well, I can be not judgmental. It's like, that's not how it works. This is about curiosity and an understanding of the fact that actually judgment's been there forever. And as you spoke to, it needs to be, there needs to be judgment in certain things. But it's like, yeah, get curious about where it's showing up, because it's really interesting where it's showing up most in my life. Or I know for me, it's when I feel insecure, or there's a fear, or I don't understand something, I drop into judgment.
Yeah. It's funny because I think, I had similar when I was younger. Like, I'm not judgmental. Like, and then, but then chastising people for being judgmental.
That's the best one. You're so judgmental.
Can't believe them. They're so damn judgmental. Okay. But yeah, I think I prided myself on not being, but I didn't see it because, my judgments weren't judgments. They were right, yes. Damn it.
Of course. Of course. Just like mine.
Yeah, but I think that's the trick of the mind. There's this superiority that can come with our own judgments because they seem true, and I don't think it subjectively is from a superior standpoint. I think it's a protection thing. It's a safety thing. Like if I'm right about this, that I've got certainty, I'm okay. But it it ties us in knots, and so that's why I love your point about get curious about it, because it's like, if I can do that turn towards, in terms of my own judgmentalness, then I can understand it rather than try and deny it or be scared of it. Then it doesn't have power over me. I can't switch off my tendency to judge, but if I understand it, then it's not necessarily going to catch me out.
Yeah. Right.
Like I'm like more likely going to see it and be like, because I still get to walk down the street and then a judgment will come into my head about somebody, but I can see it now and be like, that's a judgment, rather than believe it. Or my favorite one, drivers. Happened to me the other day. Like I've been doing this this meditation. I was feeling really like calm and really like, yeah, you know, it's all about the love and all this. And I get in my car, get to the end of the road, and some fucker pulls out in front of them. I'm like, you fucking bastard. And I'm just like, oh, wait, happened again.
Whoops.
That quick. 2 minutes.
Yeah, it is. It is really, really quick. It is really, really quick. And I think that's the thing, right? It's about that awareness, bringing that curiosity to it, rather than just dismissing it and going, well, I'm not judgmental and the people that are judgmental are really, really bad. That's a judgment. So get curious about it. Like, you know, because I think one of the things I learned when I was curious about judgment is, how am I judging me? And then I kind of realized the way I judge me is how I judge other people.
Well, that interestingly leads on to my first one, which is see that others' judgment is about them, and see that when you accept it, it's about you.
Yeah. That was one of mine, but yeah, okay.
Of course it is, because you've probably got about 32 of them, haven't you?
Well, not 32.
12.
Oh, we're playing that guessing game again. Where's the other one? 16.
Close enough. Somewhere between the two. So I didn't see this one for a long time. About my acceptance of it, because it always looked like if somebody says something about me and it hurts or I get angry, it looks like they've caused it. You know, but now the way I see it is that if I don't believe what they say, then I'm not going to react the same way.
Yeah.
Like if on some level, it's like if there's no button to push, they can poke all they want, but nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that for me is like the crux of it, right? Like, why is the judgment impacting me? For what purpose? For what reason? Yeah, definitely. So now I'm going to take it to the next one, because it just practice that. Practice being in the moment and allowing yourself to see the judgment and do something different with it. And remind yourself when somebody's throwing a judgment at you that the judgment is about the person that's given it to you, not you. So it's a practice thing for me. It's just practice. And that's around the get curious again. It's like, bring it fully into your awareness. Rather than going, I don't judge and I'm not one of those people. It's like, no, embrace this. Let's practice doing something different. Practice. And part of the practice can be walking around going, yes, that's a person, that's a tree, that's a flower, that's a car, without adding any judgment to it.
Interesting.
Describe it rather than judge it.
So the way I often come at it when it's about someone judging me, say, is the question I use is like how am I judging myself? Like I look at it from that point of view, because I know that I know it can work with, you know, how is that about them? But I know what has worked for me is to look at, well, you know, how am I agreeing?
Yeah.
Like, why does this look true to me? Why is it when they say that it doesn't just bounce off? Because on some level I must agree with it in that moment.
Totally. I think for me that was the biggest piece of work, was that understanding that someone can't just give me a judgment on a plate and somehow it's kind of thrown itself at me. It's more of, I'm accepting it. Yeah. I'm taking the judgment and going, okay, yeah, on some level, somewhere, there's an agreement that actually, yeah, that's true. So, yeah.
I remembered when I was reflecting, I remembered a funny, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's a funny story now, where I'd been known at work for quite back when I was employed, I was known as being a bit of a health freak. Now I don't know if I was really, but I was known as that, and I think I did have all this kind of stuff around my identity around that and what was right and what was wrong. And whenever they'd order pizza at work, I'd always be like, no. You know, because I was being good, in inverted commas. Yeah. But then interestingly, what would happen is that, like, if everybody would leave, then after hours there'd be pizza left and I'd be hungry and I'd be like,
Oh, I love that.
But what struck me once was, everybody had left. And I don't remember exactly, but I'd done something like I'd eaten so many bits of pizza anyway, and then I tried to like take the rest of it home because it was only going to be binned anyway. But I was trying to like hide anybody from seeing it because I was going to, but this is because I had to leave the office and then walk across the car park, and it was later on anyway, but and then grab my bike. But I was afraid there might be people that saw me with the pizza because I wasn't the person that ate pizza because I was good. So I'm there, like I've just stuffed however many pieces of pizza in my mouth, and I'm now trying to like get the box in my bag and stuff, and it's not really fitting, and I get there and then I'm there with my bike and trying to get it on my bike and realizing that I can't fit it on, and then do I take the pizza back or do I just bin it there? And if I bin it, I've just gone through all this bullshit and I ended up binning the pizza and then just feeling really bad and shameful for the whole thing, being like, what am I doing? Like, what is life right now? And it was all because I was afraid of the judgment of other people. But actually, I was afraid. Well, I was judging myself. I was not okay with the idea of being seen as the guy who is into his health stuff but can sometimes eat pizza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was totally about me, really, nothing about the others. I was just afraid they were going to be reflecting that back to me if they saw me and were like, "You eat pizza?"
Yeah. That's so many moments of my life doing that. It's like, yes, it's not okay. It's not okay because I said I'm the one that's doing this health thing and no to your fucking pizza, but I still want the pizza. That's what I've learned. It's like, let's not go to that extreme. Let's say, I like pizza occasionally. It's fine.
Did you do your second one? You did, didn't you? It was practice.
Yeah, it was practice not taking the judgment on. Practice just staying with it.
So my second one then. See, I've got several now. This is not... Now I've got to try and pick, but now I'm like, oh my God, which one do I pick? Make peace with yourself. That's my second one. Make peace with yourself. Which kind of leads on to what I was talking about, right? See that it's about you if you accept it. There was at some point where I said, I had in my mind that all judgment is self-judgment. Mm-hmm. And I would say that to clients. I'm not sure that's entirely true, or at least not on one level. But I do think whenever we're judging, especially if we're judging someone else or we're judging ourselves, there's a division there. There's a self-division. Like if I'm judging myself, I'm splitting myself into like good and bad. And if I'm judging someone else, I'm saying I'm creating a division there. Mm-hmm. Either I'm saying, they're bad, I'm good, or there's the other, they're good and I'm bad. I suppose is the other way of like self-judging. They're better than me or whatever. Mm-hmm. And when I was reflecting on, when have I lived my best life, basically. Well, what came out of that was anytime I've been at peace with myself, I've become a lot more spiritual over the last year or so, 2 years, definitely over the last year. And when I first started looking into it, I was very quiet and coy about it.
New words all the time.
Impromptu portmanteau. I was very coy about it, but I think that's because I had a lack of comfort about that within myself. Mm. I wasn't comfortable with the idea.
Yeah.
And so I was worried about the judgment, and the more and more comfortable I've got with it and aligned with it, the easier it's been to share about it and then really see that if somebody else gets a bit funny and judges me, it's totally about them. Although interestingly, because I'm more aligned with it and less coy about it, I get a lot fewer or at least I perceive a lot fewer kind of judgmental reactions to it. Now, those people could be like, yeah, just nodding and being, oh, yeah, and then disappear around the corner and being like, what a dickhead. But I don't experience it.
Yeah. And the joy is in that.
Because I put that down really to my congruence with it now. So I feel I have more congruence with it, at least than I did, a couple of years ago or whatever.
Interesting, because that was one of mine. Acceptance brings peace.
Alignment. Love it.
Yep. Well, my version of it was, we all do it. So don't put yourself in that space where you're all like, I'm not judgmental and you shouldn't be judgmental. And it's just like, no. The acceptance that is just there, judgment happens. Like, it brought a lot of peace to me. Because it's like, okay, so I know that now, rather than doing the whole false struggle of don't be judgmental. It's like, okay, judgment happens. That's the program. That's how this works. So within that, how can I find that acceptance? And what do I want to do about it when I have a judgment? Like, do I want to bring awareness to it? And if other people judge me, it's not that like me just retaliating with, we shouldn't fucking judge. It doesn't make sense because it's another judgment. So it's kind of like, okay, the judgment is about you, but people judge. So rather than sitting there in that thing of, oh my God, people are judgy, and it's brought me a lot of peace to just accept that judgment happens. It's what you do next. That is the key to it. So there's no point fighting that, because I spent a lot of time fighting that injustice of judgment.
Yeah, and I think it is difficult if I think it's one thing coming at it from our point of view. If we have a judgment and we're aware of that, I think it is still difficult if someone is bringing judgment at us without any awareness. I think that can be, and one of the ones, I think for me, if we feel alone with the thing we're being judged about, if I'm absolutely sure that I'm correct, say, or that whatever this person is saying is incorrect, if I'm absolutely 100% sure and I can really see in that moment it's all about them, well, that's fine. But it's like if I'm getting the same message from a bunch of people, then at some point I start to go, is there some truth in this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, sometimes is that helpful? Like, if you've got that mate that keeps nicking people's cars, does it really benefit to him to be like, just live my best life, being myself? So you're all judgmental bastards? Possibly not. Yeah.
When I did my degree, my one of my tutors used to say, if somebody says something to you once, you can go, okay, fine, that's your stuff. But it comes into your awareness twice, you might want to just go, that's interesting. Then if it starts to come into your awareness 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, then it's maybe something you might want to ponder slightly. Because I guess it's that, right? And that's the thing, it's easy enough to go, well, that's just your shit and you're all just judgmental. So, I think there's something around having that awareness.
Well, if you want to go meta on it, I guess it's having judgment about the judgment.
Yes, judging the judgment.
Or discernment about the judgment. It's like, if I can hear this, like, what's the message in this? Is this genuinely, like, is this just about their shit, or is there any kind of truth in this? It comes back to, it's not the same, but we talked about before, like, if I can take responsibility of someone for something and say, like, how have I created this as a perspective, not to take the blame. I think something like that can be useful. Like, is there any truth in this judgment that I'm being given? I think that can be a difficult thing, at least to do. If it's something that I already beat myself up about, and someone says, I remember having it before, actually, when I started playing live. Like, I played guitar in my bedroom for ages because, I was scared of going out and playing because I didn't feel good enough. Now, actually, in some respects, for a long time, I actually wasn't really good enough. Now, unfortunately, you only get good enough. I say unfortunately, like what you get good enough by going out and playing. There's only so good you're going to get playing in your bedroom.
Yep.
And one of the things I was terrified of was playing live and somebody saying about how I wasn't good. Like I was worried about that judgment, because that self-judgment would have been reflected at me. And I remember one of my mates actually did say it. I mean, he was being quite honest about it, but you could say blunt. He wasn't coming from an unkind place. But I think that's what I heard. But it hit me when he said something about, something along the lines of like, so I need to practice that a bit more, but something. And it was like, oh, wonder. But what I heard initially was my self-judgment. That was the fear. Oh my God, someone's going to hear that I fucked up and I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. But actually the true message in that was, well, yeah, you need to practice.
Yeah. Because
there wasn't any malice in what he said. And also, interestingly, I didn't talk to my sister for like 6 months when, I can't remember how long, it was years ago. Because for years I used to practice guitar and sing. And actually for a long time, I really wasn't very good, especially with like vocally. I was really worried about my ability to sing. And she came in and she used to dislike the fact that I was always bloody singing. And she made a comment about it, and it really cut deep. And I didn't talk to her for like 6 months for it as a punishment, which I feel quite bad about now. Because and I really blamed her and hated on her for it. But I tell you what that made me do, that made me face it and suddenly go, all right, obviously obviously this isn't just a fear, then let's check this out. And it actually made me work out and do some pitch training and improve my voice as a result of doing that.
Did you say thank you?
Not yet. I'll have to now.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's funny because you're saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, like, I guess every time you put yourself out there, like we do when we do the Notcast, potentially there's going to be a judgment. But I guess, yeah, the flip side to that is you don't do anything at all and you just hide away, and because somebody might say something. But I think the crux of it is you and being able to do that work on yourself. Really. There's no getting away from it, people. Ever.
Have you done 3?
Did I do 3? Love. As always.
Of course.
Love.
Tell me more.
Self-love. No, I think this is where the self-love journey really made a difference for me. It's like, because I didn't like myself. So then every judgment's about the way I look, judgment's about like everything. All the things I didn't like about myself, if anybody said anything, and it didn't even have to be an out and out judgment, like you were speaking to, it could just be, I don't know, like your hair might look different it might look nicer if it's a different color, and it's just like your glasses, maybe a bit different shape might suit your face. And it's just like, it would be an instant like arrow to my heart, because it would just be because those are all the things that I was judging myself on constantly. But that really didn't shift very much until I liked myself. And I was able to really do the work on going, okay, now what are those things really about? Because it was a lot easier just to go, well, people are just assholes. And they make me feel like that because they say those things. But the real thing was that I didn't like myself. I didn't really have that relationship with myself. And I definitely didn't love myself enough to go, it's okay to be who you are. And I don't have to judge myself about everything. And being in that process and having experienced it differently, speaking from that place, I can only say that now it's a very different experience when people say things to me. Because there might be a second where it kicks in and it's like, ow, that hurt. But then it's just like, fair enough. That's your opinion. That's all good. That's okay. And that's really helped me to do that. Really helped me to embrace myself in the moment and give myself what I need. Which is not a slap across the face like I used to give myself. but definitely more of a hug. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. That speaks to them. That doesn't speak to you. You don't have to take it on board.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It's kind of like what we were saying. If someone judges you and you can see it for what it is, you can do that check and balance. And if I don't really like myself, or if I've got some self-judgments, those ones that are already there, it's just gonna stick.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, then it became a spiral. So then it would just spiral out of control. And there'd be actions and behaviors because of this judgment. But really, it was because that's how I judged myself all of the time. So even in this journey of like loving myself, I can see that. I can see when I fall into it because I allow myself to, because I care enough to inquire. So I guess, yeah, it's given me the capacity to look after myself in the moment.
Well, and that's even coming back to that example I used of, when my sister said what she said about my singing. Like, actually, that was something, and I think about it, I beat myself up over every day. And every time I'd almost avoid recording myself back then because every time I heard it back, I didn't like it. Now, I didn't know what to do about it, but it also got to the point where I was almost kind of avoiding it. I wasn't actively trying to do something more about it. I mean, what I'd been doing was just constantly trying to sing and hoping it'd get better, just keep singing songs and hoping it'd improve. And so I kind of had this self-judgment, but didn't know what to do. And it was only being fronted with that made me go, okay, maybe I'll try something different. Like, she wasn't really about her. She just kind of reflected that back at me. Yeah, I did blame her for it because that was the easy thing to do. But then I actually did do something. And would I have done something about it if I hadn't have had that reflected back at me at that time? Probably not. I mean, if someone said to me now you can't sing, I'd be like, I disagree because I don't think that's true.
Yes, and therein lies the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my third one then was be more you.
That was also one of mine. What the hell? What's going on?
Have you been peeking at my journal, Ms. Dave?
Oh no.
Well, this came because, like, I do think ultimately a lot of the fear about judgment is this fear about being ourselves or being who we really want to be or who we think we truly are or are born to be or whatever, whatever metaphor you want to use. It's like, that's the fear. If I'm myself, I'll be rejected.
Yep.
And I think the cold hard truth is that, yeah, you probably will be. That's definitely been my experience. Every time I've changed somewhat, for good or for bad, depending on how, grown in whatever direction, some people haven't liked it. But what I have found is the more I've allowed myself to be more of who I'm happy being, then although some people have left, or it might have upset some people, it's attracted more of the people who are accepting of me, or at least those people then who were accepting in the first place have stuck around.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like, and in a way, it's like that old, out with the old, in with the new, I guess.
Yeah. And I have a lot of experience of that. So that speaks to me, and I guess that's why it was one of mine too. Yeah. Ah, yes. Okay. I love you. Don't change.
Well, I think, and I think back when of friends that I had, a group of friends when I was a lot younger, and I didn't see it back then, but I do looking back now that there were certain rules about what you could and couldn't do, and it was all very hierarchical, status-wise. If you did certain things, then you were upsetting someone, and you're upsetting the order. And I guess that's fine if you're happy living within that. But I look back and I see now how restrictive some of that was for me. And so then when I started to change and knock around with different people, it did upset them. And it was not nice to lose some of those friends, but actually I felt a lot more at home with the group of friends that I then had. And that, an evolution of that has been frequent during my life. And I think it's always sad if you lose people, or if there's some people don't seem to be as accepting as we want them to be. But like I said, the more I found that I spend time around those people that are happy to have me, and the more of me that I show, then it's like, well, there's just less of a reason to, like, any self-judgments I have, they can't stay alive. Like, if I'm prepared to share certain parts of me with someone and then they don't reject me for it, it's like, oh, well, this can't be entirely true then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Practice, right?
Practice.
Practice. Yeah. I guess that's a big one. And I guess I'm going to align that with, well, I guess it's because there's no getting away from it, right? It's the thing about getting quite real and admitting that I give a shit about the judgments people make about me. I give a shit. So some of the things I used to do when people judge me were quite destructive. So rather than that, I do some self-inquiry. I bring awareness to it. I kind of have to go, okay, no. Because I know me better than I know anybody else. And it's like, judgment goes straight into my ego. Mm-hmm. And it can take me to quite a bad place. Yeah. So firstly, knowing that has been a gem of a revelation, because it's like, okay, so that's happened. That's the pattern. So I need to have an awareness of the pattern and really understand it. But yeah, then it's just like really needing to take that moment to go, yeah, this has had an impact, rather than acting on it and doing something impulsive and terrible and horrible, or biting back and saying something truly horrendous. Just like to step back, slow down. Just slow down. Because all of the things I feel like we've spoken about take that moment of recognition and just bringing some awareness to everything.
Yeah, and I love the point you made that, like, it might be possible to reach that point where all judgments from everybody just bounce off, and I know I'm okay all the time, but I don't know, it seems like a bit of a tall order. I mean, I've read about a few people that have managed it, like Buddha and Christ and Krishna, but they're I'm sure Mother Teresa had a good bash, but I've not managed to live there.
It hurts, man. It's not nice. It kind of, for me, I know it still kind of can ignite that same initial response. So just knowing that really, really helps. That actually I'm reacting to this, because that gives me the chance to do something different. Just that split second.
Well, yeah, and one of the other points that I'd had, one of my backup points.
Backup points
was get some backgotters and cheerleaders.
Yay!
Well, just because, and this speaks to kind of the point that I was talking about being more you, is that I found in being more me, and I then have those people who appreciate me for me. Like, in a way, that's some check and balance. So if I start getting a bunch of judgments from some people, then I've got some check and balance to be like, is it me? Because it might be me, because I might have actually turned into a massive dickhead. Like, it is entirely possible. And that has happened a couple of times in my life where I have been a bit of a dickhead. And then I needed to really look at myself and change my behavior. And I think, and to just be arrogant and be like, oh, it's definitely going to be about them, like, that's not going to help me, because, well, then be one of those people that it's always everybody else, but I keep changing friends regularly. So
yeah.
I think it can help. I think it can help for check and balance, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any closing thoughts then on judgment, how to stop giving a shit what people think and live in your best life?
Yeah, I think bottom line of it is it starts with you. So really spend that time with yourself to really understand how judgment shows up in your life, how you judge yourself. And when you're judged by somebody, just take that second to go, well, spiritually for me, we either live in love or it's a call for love. Take that second to acknowledge the fact that it's a call for love in some way, shape or form.
Love it. So mine is just, it's okay to be you. The more that you are you, the more you'll attract the people like you.
Love it.
11 episodes.
Done and dusted. Yeah. You've been listening to the Notcast podcast, Life, Love, Misery and Deep Shit with your TheraCoach hosts,
Amy Dave.
And David Bird.
Amy is a transformative spiritual and self-love coach and therapist who takes people on a powerful journey towards self-love and personal transformation. She empowers her clients to discover the truth of who they really are, their true purpose, and the truest expression of themselves, whilst enabling them to navigate life and its challenges with ease, grace, and above all, love. Create relationships that rock their world and let go of the toxic shit that holds them back. You can connect with Amy on her Facebook at facebook.com/amy.dave11. That's AMI.DAVE.11.
David is a transformative coach and hypnotherapist who guides his clients on a journey of self-exploration and transformation to smash the shit out of their mental stumbling blocks and send their emotional baggage packing, helping them to get back in the driver's seat, create a more powerful, loving connection to life, and unleash onto the world their bright, shining light of authentic give-a-fuckness. You can connect with David at his website, dbch.co.uk. That's dbch.co.uk.
The Notcast.